Cats, Maximus here. This time I'm doing a video about what I'm calling these second generation. And that's a little bit different, second generation Husky, I should say. A little bit different than from the, I would say, maybe late 70s or 1980s Huskies. These Huskies here, and we know that you can really tell the difference is, one, the newer USA made ones, I should say. These are both USA, but these are second generation. Now, these earlier ones here, this happens to be a half-inch drive, were made by New Britain, and they have this type of mechanism in them, the really excellent killness mechanism, just an absolute, really high quality, really beefy mechanism. And then they had 43 series, and they had slightly revised 45 series. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here is that after New Britain either went defunct or just before they did, Husky switched, and this would be Home Depot's house brand, switched to a different vendor. And you can really, the easiest way to tell is if you have a New Britain Husky, you just have a standard font, and slightly newer ones you have this more stylized font with the long line under the H. Even though they actually kept the reverse lever that kind of looked like the old New Britons, and actually some New Britons used ones that were like this that weren't like the little Chevrolet symbol. But unfortunately, there's a big difference between the quality of the old 80s Huskies and then what we'll call the last of the American-made Huskies, this series here. This one is really interesting. I don't know if it's intentional, but they actually, the spiral spring that holds it is a wave spring, so it actually has just a huge amount of back drag. I mean, it's untenable. And we'll show what I'm talking about there. Let's go and get the spring out of here. If it will cooperate with me. There we go. First thing we'll talk about is this. And I don't know if this is just bent. Maybe somebody got this and bent it, or if this is from the factory, but this is what's causing so much back drag. This should be a lot flatter. I just impacted this a bunch with a hammer, and I got it a little bit straighter. You'd have to spend some time fiddling around with this to get it really flat. But the big difference here is inside. When they went away from the New Britain, they just decided to go with a really cheap, basic single swing pawl mechanism. So like this Husky and the other 3/8 I've made videos about have this type of mechanism with a real, it's like a round head but with a floating pawl. It's kind of like how more modern fine-tooth pairhead ratchets are made. Just has a huge number of teeth, really positive engagement. And then they went with just a super simple and real basic design here. And it's, okay, but it's not even like a twin pawl design. It's just one single basic 3-tooth pawl. So those last of the American-made Huskies are really not anything that I would recommend. Mainly because that's just such an unfortunate circumstance there that they would make the change to something that was just so much lower quality. You would think they would have at least gone with, at least a double pawl design. They'll try to make them, as heavy duty as the old school Huskies were with the New Britain Killness style, but they didn't, and so it's a bit of a disappointment. That helped a lot. I managed to flatten that out enough to where this at least turns a lot more freely. But unfortunately, what we'll call the second generation or last of the American-made Husky ratchets are just cheesy round-head ratchets and are nothing like their old New Britain-made counterparts. The other difference, this is a half-inch ratchet, this is a 1/4 inch, and we can see that the head on this 1/4 inch is just absolutely massive. Other things that we can tell that really were cheesy. I don't know who made this for them in the US, but even the finish, we can see the grind here. There's more taper on this side than there is on this side. Whereas on a higher quality ratchet, it'll be pretty symmetrical and even. Here we can see it's really kind of lopsided. So have a lower grade quality control in addition to just being a totally bog standard basic cheese ball design. And it's real unfortunate they stopped using this design. But then just to go to a single pawl without two pawls, no good. So when you run into old American, USA made Husky ratchets, just make sure that you're getting the one that has the standard font. That'll either be a 43 or a 45 versus the one with the stylized fonts, because these aren't any good. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out.